Before you embark on this journey into the raw complexities of betrayal, hidden truths, and the agonizing path to an unimaginable connection, I implore you, if the echoes of powerful human stories resonate with you, press that subscribe button right now. Become a part of the Echo Tales community, and in the comments below, share your thoughts on the profound impact of unspoken secrets. Your engagement fuels our quest to bring these narratives to light. Welcome to Echo Tales, where truth often wears the cloak of the unbelievable, and the past never truly stays buried. Tonight, we delve into a narrative of shattered trust, a silent child, and the devastating revelation that ripped apart one man's world, only to offer him an unexpected, fragile hope. It wasn't the glint of the sun, but the defiant yellow of the stroller that first caught my eye. Tiny, cheerful suns printed across the fabric, a jarring contrast to the tempest brewing within me. The baby inside was deep in slumber, mouth agape, utterly devoid of worldly worries. His mother, apparently, shared that serenity until she saw me. She didn't notice right away. She was at the smoothie stand, a perfectly curated tableau of domestic bliss, ordering something with chia seeds. I heard her say it, "Extra chia, please," the words ringing with an ironic politeness that scoffed at the memory of her screaming at me for buying the wrong almond milk just 2 years prior. I stood behind a row of obscenely overpriced massage chairs, clutching a pathetic, single microwave meal, frozen in place. Every instinct screamed at me to vanish, but instead, I stared. Like a pathetic deer caught in headlights that, disturbingly, looked exactly like my ex-wife's eyes. Then it happened. She turned, her head tilted first, casual, a whisper of a smile playing on her lips. Her gaze drifted, then snagged on mine, and everything shifted. I wish I could articulate the seismic change. The way her lips froze mid-sentence, the rapid draining of color from her face, so swiftly I thought she might collapse. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. I felt like one. My hoodie, damp from the relentless rain, clung to me. I hadn't shaved in a week, and my left shoelace, a stubborn testament to my unraveling life, was untied. Meanwhile, she was a walking lifestyle blog, wavy, sun-kissed hair, an artfully oversized cardigan. That smile, moments ago, so real, now twitching in a raw panic. 748 days. Yes, I counted, and there she was, holding the child she made with him. She spoke, but the sound was swallowed by a deafening hum in my ears. A syllable, perhaps. Oh, or oh my, or maybe just a breath. But I knew what she was thinking. What is he doing here? I wanted to laugh, a hollow, bitter sound. What was I doing there? This mall, once our sanctuary on rainy Sundays, where the frozen yogurt place still beckoned, where she used to charm me into extra mochi. I remember the exact corner between the escalators where she once kissed me, whispering a promise. We'll never fall apart. A promise she shattered on a mundane Wednesday afternoon. No text, no call, just a void. She left behind a house with 2 toothbrushes still in the cup, her wedding ring on the coffee table, and a voicemail that began with a pathetic, "Please don't be mad," and ended with, "I'm not coming back." And yet, here she was alive, blooming, complete with his child. I didn't approach. Not yet. I watched her retrieve her smoothie, gently bounce the baby, and glance around with a frantic, animalistic nervousness, as if I might simply evaporate if she blinked hard enough. But I didn't. I took a step forward. Her body stiffened, a silent accusation, as if I'd drawn a weapon. The baby stirred. The stroller let out a pathetic squeak as she recoiled an inch. My voice, when it finally emerged, was a ragged whisper, devoid of clever comebacks or biting insults. Just a single, flat question. "Is that him?" Her eyes glistened. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. I already knew. Instead, she averted her gaze, suddenly engrossed by a display of scented candles nearby. The baby gurgled, loud, oblivious, utterly content, while she pretended my question hadn't just sliced through 2 years of agonizing silence. I took another step, not to intimidate, but because I craved a genuine look, a moment of human recognition. Not a mistake, not a chapter she'd outgrown. Her fingers fidgeted with the rim of her smoothie cup. She glanced down at her baby, their baby, as if hoping his innocent presence would magically distract me. But my eyes were locked on her, and my chest was a vice, tight as if I'd swallowed gravel. I repeated the question, slower this time, each word a stone dropped into the abyss. Is that his kid? I gestured vaguely toward the stroller, unwilling to utter his name. Curtis. Even now, the syllables tasted like ash. She gave the faintest nod, as if any more movement would shatter her fragile composure. I let out a grotesque parody of a laugh, a sound that tore from my chest, raw and broken, spilling out through my mouth. A passing couple turned, their heads swiveling in surprise. Mallory shrank further into her oversized sweater, her face a mask of desperate yearning for the floor to swallow her whole. Too loud now, I asked, my voice echoing off the tiled walls of the food court. You did it. You actually built a family with him. I looked down at the child again. He had her eyes, huge, blue, and a little too knowing. Guess I was just a warm-up act. Please don't, she said finally, her voice thin, worn, like an apology that had aged poorly. She still couldn't bring herself to use my name. Not Elwood. Not even you. Just don't. As if I were a threat, or worse, a fading echo. I wanted to scream. I wanted to smash something small and meaningless. Instead, I simply stared at her and asked, why'd you do it like that? Just leave. No goodbye, no warning. You didn't even tell me in person. Her mouth opened, then closed, nothing escaping. She looked genuinely speechless. I'd replayed this moment 1,000 times. In the shower, in traffic, lying awake on my deflated air mattress. I drafted 1,000 perfect lines, but none of them prepared me for this awkward, suffocating silence. My chest ached. I realized I hadn't taken a breath in almost 20 seconds. I didn't think you'd let me go, she finally whispered, her voice barely audible. You always clung to things. She gestured vaguely, as if I were a bad habit she'd finally kicked. I wanted to unleash something clever, something final, but what came out was a pitiful whisper. I was your husband. She flinched. That word, husband, hit her like a physical blow. She looked down again, her hand automatically rocking the stroller back and forth. The child began to fuss, not crying yet, just fidgeting. And still, she didn't say my name. I would have done anything for you, I said, my voice heavy with a truth she'd discarded. I stayed when you battled depression. I cleaned up your mom's garage when no one else would. I helped you rehearse for your job interviews, even when you were already messaging him. Her eyes shot up. That's not fair, isn't it? I countered, the memory burning, because I remember the night you came home smelling of cologne. I asked if it was just a new shampoo. You said it was lavender and rolled your eyes at me like I was insane. I didn't want to hurt you, she whispered. You still did. She exhaled sharply, and for a fleeting moment, I thought she might cry. But of course she didn't. Mallory had always been a master of public composure. Me? I was the man who once sobbed in a Walgreens parking lot because they were out of those orange-flavored cough drops she liked. I was the man who, on voicemail number 17, begged her to come home while she was already building a new life with him. Now, I stood in the middle of the mall, clutching a microwave I didn't even want, speaking to the woman who used to whisper forever in her sleep, while her new child tried to shove a plastic giraffe into his mouth. And then she said the most utterly devastating thing possible. You look different. That was it. Not I'm sorry. Not you didn't deserve it. Just different. As if I were a hairstyle, a piece of furniture to be rearranged. I wanted to disappear. So I did something unplanned. I turned and walked away. Not with dramatic flourish. No epic parting line or middle finger raised. I just left, microwave box in hand, shoulders hunched. I walked past the candle display, past the pretzel stand, out the automatic doors into the relentless gray afternoon drizzle. And as they slid shut behind me, a strange realization settled. For the first time since she left, she was the one watching me leave. I thought that would be the end of it. Just walking away, letting the glass doors slide shut like curtains after a humiliating performance. I didn't expect anything else from her. I certainly didn't expect the sound of hurried footsteps splashing through puddles behind me. Elle would wait. It was the first time she'd spoken my name in over 2 years. I froze under the awning, gripping the box tighter, as if it might anchor me. I didn't turn around. She caught up, breathless, one hand shielding her eyes from the rain, the other pressing her cardigan closed over her chest. The stroller, thank God, was still inside. I think she left it with one of those kiosk workers. Or perhaps she simply didn't care. I couldn't tear my gaze from the rain-swept parking lot, the somber sky above, the thin tendrils of steam rising from the pavement. She stood beside me in silence for a few seconds, her ragged breathing the only sound between us. "You didn't look okay," she said quietly, as if this act somehow painted her as the heroine of this bleak scene, as if following me out into the drizzle could erase 2 years of nothing. "I just wanted to check on you. You wanted to check on me?" I finally turned to face her, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "After you erased me from your life, like a typo, that's not what I did. You ghosted me, Molly. You left a letter. I left a document with bullet points." She flinched again. I almost felt a pang of sympathy. Almost. Her hair was damp now, her mascara slightly smudged under one eye. For a moment, she didn't look like the polished woman from Instagram. She looked like someone caught in the act of remembering everything she'd tried desperately to forget. And I realized, with a chilling clarity, that she wasn't here for me. She was here for her guilt. "I couldn't face you," she said finally, her voice almost lost to the wind. "You would have talked me out of it. That hit harder than I expected." "You're damn right I would have," I said, my voice cracking at the edges. "Because I believed in us. Because I thought you were just tired or confused. I didn't think you were building a whole other life with someone who drinks his coffee out of a mason jar." She laughed then, a small, genuine, pitiful sound. It made me sick. "You still do that thing?" she asked, wiping under her eye. "What thing?" "Make jokes when you're breaking." And just like that, I hated her again. Not in the dramatic, movie-ending way. It was a quieter, colder hatred. The hatred of someone for knowing you too intimately after they've ceased to deserve that knowledge. I turned back to the lot, the wind pushing drizzle into my face. My hoodie was soaked through. "Why did you really come out here?" I asked without looking at her. "You wanted to make sure I wasn't going to throw myself into traffic? Or just check if I still wear sad shoes?" She didn't answer at first. I almost thought she'd finally walk away. But then, quietly, she said, "I had a dream last month. You were standing at the end of a dock. You didn't look at me. You just walked into the lake and disappeared. When I woke up, I couldn't breathe. I didn't know what to say. For a few seconds, I just stood there, blinking away the rain, unsure if the wetness on my cheeks was just the weather or something else." "Why do you care now?" I asked. "Because you mattered. You still matter. Just not in the way you want to." That was worse than a slap. Worse than the letter. Worse than every agonizing silence she'd gifted me over the last 748 days. I finally looked at her. "Well, Molly," I said softly, my voice filled with a finality that echoed off the damp pavement. "You don't get to decide how much I matter anymore." And then I walked. This time, she didn't follow. I could feel it in the air, the shift, the resignation. Perhaps she finally understood that you can't circle back after carving someone out of your life with surgical precision. You don't get to mourn what you murdered slowly. I reached my car, placed a microwave in the passenger seat, and sat behind the wheel, my hands trembling. In the mirror, I could still see her standing there in the rain, but she didn't move. She just watched me drive away. I thought that would be it. A final scene, curtains down, her watching me from under that leaking mall awning while I drove away with the saddest microwave in North America beside me. But this story, it refused to end where I needed it to. I learned it the hard way 3 days later when I got a letter in the mail. No return address, no envelope, just a folded paper shoved inside a torn greeting card sleeve with cartoon raccoons on the front. It looked like it had been written in a rush, the pen barely keeping pace with her tumbling thoughts. But the handwriting was familiar, slanted, sharp, Mallory's. And across the top, scrolled above the first sentence, were 5 words I wish I had never read. "You don't know the half." I stared at those words for a long time, sitting on my unmade bed, the letter heavy in my hand. The microwave still wasn't unpacked. I hadn't eaten anything except dry cereal since the mall. And now she was sending me cryptic notes, as if this were some twisted treasure hunt or a trap. The first line, Curtis was never supposed to be permanent. My stomach churned. What was that supposed to mean? A fling? A placeholder? The father of her child was temporary? She went on, explaining she didn't mean to get pregnant, that Curtis pushed for the baby, and that after the child was born, things weren't what she thought they'd be. His charm, the laughs, the late-night energy, it all fizzled once real life set in. She talked about how he changed, how he started drinking more, how he stopped listening, how he once vanished for 2 days and came back with a black eye and no explanation. And then came the part that made me sit bolt upright. I've never told anyone this, but when I left you, I was already 3 months pregnant, and I wasn't sure it was his. My hand started shaking so violently the paper crackled. I had to set it down and walk away. I paced the apartment like a trapped animal. 3 months? 3? That would mean there's a real chance. No. That couldn't be. I went back to the letter. Curtis didn't ask questions when I told him. He wanted the idea of a child more than the truth. He said if we didn't know for sure, we'd just say it was his, and I was too ashamed to stop him. I wanted to bury it. I convinced myself it was his. And maybe it is, but I don't know. And now I can't stop wondering. I dropped the letter. I sat on the floor and stared at the fridge, my mind buzzing with fractured thoughts, none of them helpful. I remembered the baby, his eyes, those same deep blues I used to see in the mirror when I actually looked at myself. This wasn't just a chance meeting at the mall anymore. This wasn't just about her leaving me and replacing me with a cardigan-wearing startup guy. This was about a child. And maybe, just maybe my child. I picked up the letter again. The rest of it was a jumble of regrets, guilt, some line about how she sometimes wonders what would have happened if she'd told me sooner. A closing that said, I'm not asking for anything. I just thought you deserved to know. Deserve to know. I wanted to scream. I deserve a hell of a lot more than this torn-up confessional stuffed in a dollar store raccoon card. But still, I couldn't stop thinking about it. That baby, that stroller, that gummy smile, those eyes. What if I'd walked right past my son? What if Molly didn't just walk away from me? What if she took my child with her? I didn't sleep that night. Not a single minute. I sat on the edge of my bed in the same clothes I wore to the mall, rereading her letter until the words lost all meaning. He might be yours. That line looped in my head like a song I didn't ask for, a cruel melody. It wasn't just the betrayal anymore. It was something much deeper, a profound, agonizing loss. I might have lost a child I never knew I had. And worse, he might have been sleeping under another man's roof for the last 2 years, calling him dad. By sunrise, I was pacing the hallway like a lunatic. I pulled out my old laptop, the one with food crumbs under the keys and stickers from when Molly thought she wanted to start a blog, and opened a new tab, paternity test without mother's consent. That search led me down a dark rabbit hole. Forums full of men like me. Ghost dads, maybe dads, ex-husbands buried under someone else's lie. Most of them said the same thing. Unless you have legal rights, don't expect cooperation, and don't expect the truth. But I wasn't looking for cooperation. I was looking for closure. I hadn't spoken to Molly since the letter. I wanted to scream at her. I wanted to cry. I wanted to ask her how long she planned to keep that information hidden. Was she going to wait until he turned 18? Or maybe just never tell me at all? But deep down, I knew why she sent the letter. It wasn't for me. It was to wipe the slate clean, to clear her conscience without facing the full, brutal consequences. I opened my phone, scrolled through old messages until I found the number I had once memorized. Her number. I hadn't dialed it since the divorce, but now my thumb hovered over it. I didn't want to hear her voice. I didn't trust what mine would sound like. So I sent a single text. We need to talk face to face. Please don't bring him. I stared at the typing bubble that came and went. Then nothing. No reply. I waited 5 minutes. 10. I tossed the phone across the couch and buried my face in my hands. It rang 20 minutes later. Her voice was quiet, flat, like she was trying not to wake someone. I'll meet you, she said. Tomorrow, but only for 10 minutes. This doesn't change anything. But already had. The next day, We met at a park bench just outside the neighborhood where we used to live, neutral territory. She wore sunglasses, even though it was cloudy. She looked tired. Her hair wasn't done, and she had a faint stain on her sleeve. It was the first time in years she looked imperfect. Strangely, that made her feel real again. I got right to it. I want a test. She didn't answer at first. She just picked at a loose thread on her sleeve and said, "I knew you'd say that." She exhaled. "What do you want me to do, Elwood?" "Just take him to a lab and tell Curtis, surprise. The kid might not be yours. Curtis doesn't matter." "I do. That's not fair. None of this is fair. I spent 2 years grieving a woman who never even buried me properly. And now you're telling me I might have missed my own son's first steps, first words. Stop it. Why? Because it hurts? Good." She looked away. Her hand trembled slightly, and I could tell she wanted to cry. But again, she didn't. I always hated that about her. That chilling ability to wall off everything, to blink once, smile tightly, and pretend the ground wasn't crumbling beneath her. "I didn't want to destroy anyone's life," she said. "You already did." Silence. Then, just when I thought the conversation was over, she pulled something from her coat pocket. A photo, a small, faded Polaroid of the boy, Cedar, sitting in a sandbox with a plastic dinosaur in one hand. He was looking up at someone mid-laugh. His hair was a mess. His cheeks were full, and those eyes. "Tell me they're not yours," she said. And for the first time, her voice cracked. I took the photo, stared at it for a long time, and felt something break inside me. Not the grief, not the anger, something worse. The terrifying hope that maybe, just maybe, I still had something left to fight for. "Do the test," I said. And then I got up and walked away before I lost whatever was left of me. The wait nearly killed me. It took 12 days. 12 long, bone-cracking, nerve-writhing days to get the results. During that time, I couldn't focus on anything. Couldn't work, couldn't sleep, couldn't even sit still long enough to finish a sandwich. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the boy's face. His wide eyes, his round cheeks, his laugh I'd only heard once from a distance. I kept asking myself questions that no one could answer. Would he like dinosaurs because I did at his age? Did he sleep on his side like I do? Did he cry at loud noises? Did he even know who I was? When the envelope finally came, I just stared at it for a full hour. It was plain, white, and impossibly light. I don't know why I expected it to weigh more. Maybe because it held the future in it, or at least the version of it I'd quietly built in my mind. The moment I opened it, I knew it would change everything. I just didn't know which part of me would be left standing after. It was positive, 99.9%. He was mine. I didn't cry. I thought I would. I thought I'd break down or laugh or throw something, but I didn't. I just sat there on my kitchen floor, holding a truth I never asked for, and wondering how long she'd known, how long she'd lived beside me, inside our home, pregnant with my child and keeping it to herself. I called her. She didn't pick up. I called again. Nothing. I drove to her place. Curtis opened the door. He didn't look surprised. That's what hit me first. He looked resigned, like he'd been expecting this moment to arrive like a train he couldn't stop. His eyes were duller than the last time I'd seen him. Less smug, more worn out. His jaw was tight, his hair messy, like fatherhood hadn't been the romantic dream Instagram filters had promised. "She's not here," he said flatly. "Then you and I are going to talk," I replied. He didn't move, just leaned against the doorframe and crossed his arms. "I know." I blinked. "You know what? That he's yours," he said without even flinching. "I've always known." The silence after that was volcanic. Something inside me snapped. Not violently, just permanently. Like a door closing for good. I couldn't understand what he was saying. I needed him to repeat it, to explain it, to admit it wasn't real. But he didn't. He just kept talking. "She told me before he was born. Said it might not be mine. But I didn't care. I told her I'd raise him anyway. That if he looked like you, I'd deal with it. You were irrelevant to me." I stepped forward, my fist trembling. "Irrelevant? You mean me? The biological father? You think biology makes you a dad?" He snapped, his voice laced with venom. "Where were you when he had a fever at 3 in the morning? Where were you when he couldn't sleep unless someone sang to him? You think you could just walk in now and rewrite what's already been written? You stole him. She gave him to me." Those words, they hit like ice in my lungs. I couldn't breathe, couldn't blink, couldn't stand still. He wasn't raising my child by accident. He'd taken him with full knowledge, and she let him. You could have told me, I said, my voice breaking. You both could have. We didn't owe you anything, he cut in coldly. She left. You weren't part of the picture anymore. But I should have been, I whispered, the words barely audible. Curtis looked me in the eye and said something I'll never forget. Then maybe you should have fought harder before she walked out the door. I turned and left. I don't remember walking back to my car. I don't remember driving. I just remember the soul-crushing realization that the two of them had built a life on top of a lie and sealed me out of it like I was the threat. But now I had the truth, and the truth had weight. I wasn't just the ex-husband anymore. I was someone's father, and I had a decision to make. I thought knowing the truth would give me strength, like the DNA results would unlock some kind of righteous momentum inside me. I thought I'd print them, staple them to some legal form, march into court like a man with unwavering purpose. But the truth doesn't come with instructions. It comes with weight, with fear, with a hollow kind of ache that makes you question if you even deserve what you just uncovered. I didn't file anything. Not yet. Instead, I sat on that piece of paper like it was radioactive. And every time I thought about making a move, my brain dragged me back to the same question. What if he doesn't want to know me? Mallory hadn't called me since the park. Curtis clearly wanted me erased. And the kid, the actual child in the middle of this mess, he didn't even know I existed. That thought haunted me more than anything else. My son was growing up thinking someone else was his dad while I sat on the sidelines, chewing my own heart into pieces. And yeah, I know how pathetic that sounds. I hate it too. But one morning, 3 weeks after that park bench meeting, I made a decision. Maybe not the right one. Definitely not the strong one. But the only one I could live with. I wrote a letter. A real one, handwritten. No raccoons, no typing, just me, ink, and every ounce of nerve I had left. It wasn't dramatic, no threats, no legal jargon, just honesty. I told her I wasn't coming to ruin anything. I just wanted to meet him one time. No expectations, no pressure, just a conversation, a moment, a window. She replied 2 days later, one line, Saturday, 11 a.m. at Marlowe Park. Come alone. The minute I pulled into that lot, I felt like I was trespassing in my own dream. The sun was out, mocking me with its relentless cheerfulness. Families dotted the grass, kids on swings, parents with coffee cups and 4 smiles. I parked far from the playground and walked in slow, unsure steps, scanning faces. And then I saw them. Mallory sat under a tree, her knees pulled up to her chest. She looked smaller than I remembered. Next to her in the grass sat a boy with a red toy truck in one hand and a juice box in the other. Cedar, my son. He didn't look up when I approached. Mallory did. No wave, no smile, just a shallow nod. I crouched beside them, not too close. My heart pounded in places I didn't know had rhythm. Hi, I said softly. Cedar looked up, big blue eyes. My eyes. Who's that? He asked. Mallory hesitated. That's an old friend. A friend of yours? He asked her. Then, looking at me directly for the first time, he added, You don't look like a friend. You look like a stranger. That word hit me in the throat. Stranger. That's what I was. A stranger to my own blood. I forced a weak smile. Well, yeah, I guess I do. Do you have trucks? He asked, pointing to the one in his hand. Used to, I replied. Not as cool as that one. He inspected me for 3 seconds of absolute silence. Then he returned to his juice. Mallory didn't speak. Neither did I. We just sat there. 3 broken people arranged like a mistake no one wanted to claim. I watched him play for 20 minutes. Asked him 2 questions. Got 3 answers. At one point, he looked up and said, Your shoelace is weird. And that was the most direct connection we had. Then Mallory stood up, dusted off her jeans, and said, Okay, time to go. I didn't argue, didn't beg, just nodded and stood slowly. As she packed his things, I crouched beside him once more and whispered, Maybe I'll see you again sometime, buddy. He didn't respond. But as they walked away, just before they turned the corner, he looked over his shoulder and yelled one word, Bye, stranger. I stood there, frozen. That word again, stranger. It echoed in my chest like a closing door. I had met my son, and I was nothing more than a visitor in his story. A week passed after that morning in the park. I couldn't stop hearing that word, stranger. I heard it in my dreams, in the kettle whistle, in the spaces between thoughts. It wasn't meant to be cruel. He was just a kid calling things what they were. And the truth is, he wasn't wrong. I was a stranger, a ghost that drifted into his sunny world and left a shadow on the grass. But even ghosts remember the way sunlight feels. I didn't reach out again right away. I told myself not to push it. Let her breathe. Let him breathe. I convinced myself that the moment I had, those 20 minutes watching him push toy wheels through the dirt, had to be enough. But grief isn't always loud. Sometimes it just sits there in your chest, quiet and heavy, and waiting. And then, for days later, my phone buzzed. Mallory. One line. Cedar keeps asking when a man with weird shoelaces is coming back. I read it over and over, thinking maybe I was misreading it, but I wasn't. That was my invitation, or at least an opening. So we tried again. Same park, a different spot. I brought him a toy fire truck, red with working sirens. He lit up when he saw it. Not for me, necessarily, but for the fire truck. And that was enough. He asked me what noise real fire trucks make. I did a stupid, over-the-top Woodabioto impression, and he laughed so hard he dropped his juice box on the grass. The second meeting lasted an hour. The third, almost two. By the fourth, he started calling me Fire Truck Guy. I took it. I held on to that nickname like it meant something sacred, because in a way, it did. I was no longer a stranger. I was a thing, a part of his vocabulary, his memory, his Saturday. That was more than I had any right to expect. Curtis didn't like it. I saw it in his face one day when he came to pick Cedar up. We didn't speak. We just nodded civil, careful like two men holding opposite ends of a very fragile thread. I could see the uncertainty in his eyes, maybe even fear. But I didn't come for revenge. I didn't want to destroy his role. I just wanted my own. And surprisingly, Mallory understood that. She began inviting me to more than just the park. Playdates, story time, a science museum. Cedar liked rockets. He liked ketchup on everything. He hated loud toilets and loved bubble wrap. Every week, I learned something new about him. And every week, I feared it would all get taken away. But it didn't. It kept growing, slowly, unevenly like something planted too late in the season, but determined to bloom anyway. And one afternoon, while we were sitting on the floor of a bookstore, flipping through a picture book about sea turtles, he leaned against my arm and said softly, without even looking up, "You feel like a dad." I didn't respond right away. I couldn't. My throat closed. My heart dropped. I blinked too fast and hoped he didn't notice. But he did. "Are you crying?" he asked. "Oh no," I coughed. "I'm allergic to turtle books." He laughed, shook his head like I was ridiculous, and kept reading. That moment, that single sentence stitched something inside me that I thought would always stay torn. We're still figuring it out. There's no rule book for this kind of thing. I don't know what to call our arrangement. I don't know what the future holds. But now when he sees me walking up the sidewalk, he doesn't say stranger. He runs at me full speed, arms wide, shouting something else entirely. "Daddy." And every single time, I catch him,